Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Slight change in the programme of events for this video. As you can see, the Bantam engine is over here on the milling machine, and for no other reason other than it was a flat surface and I needed somewhere to put it. So that means that the workbench has been commandeered for something else. You may recall a few weeks ago that I mentioned another bike that I'd restored quite a few years ago, and it needed a refresh or a bit of recommissioning. Now that bike is here and we're going to go and take a look at it. Some of you I know have tried to guess what it might be. Angry 7, I'm sorry, it's not a 250 Super Dream. I did mention that it might bring back memories or nostalgia for you. But you're going to have to think back a little bit further than that. That's all I'm going to say at the moment. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll go over to the bench in a minute and have a look. Before we do though, I'd just like to mention this sticker that came in, and it's from Nell's Mechanical Man Cave. Now this is a YouTube channel run by a guy called Neil over in Wales, and quite new to YouTube, a bit like myself, and it's a great channel. He's got a home workshop very much like mine. He's got the VMC milling machine, and his most recent videos have been upgrades that he's been doing to his machines. And one, for example, is a power feed that he's devised and constructed himself for his VMC, and it uses a magnetic clutch and I think a windscreen wiper motor off a car, or it's certainly an automotive motor, and yeah, it's a really clever system. So give it a check, give it a look. Nell's Mechanical Man Cave, and he's even 3D printed the stickers himself. I've never seen that before. It's very impressive, and I don't have a sticker board yet, but I'm certainly going to get one, and Neil, your sticker will be going on there, so thanks very much indeed for sending that in. Right, so let's go and have a look what's on the workbench. Well, there you go. Feast your eyes. I don't know what you're expecting, but I'm going to say it probably wasn't that. What are we looking at? It's a 1979, there or thereabouts, Garelli Mini Pre. Made in Italy, children's fun bike, 47cc Franco Marini engine, little Grand Prix racer. As you can see, when I restored it, I was going for a bit of a Ducati Mike Hailwood theme. One of my all-time favourite bikes is the Ducati Mike Hailwood replica, the original one. The later ones were nice, but the original ones were fantastic, in my opinion. So that was the look I was going for. Now, you might ask yourself, why? Why would you do this? And there's a bit of a story behind it. Back in 2005, when my wife and I discovered that we were expecting our first child, I did what any prospective father would do, and I went out and I bought a completely dilapidated, rusty motorbike for my newborn child, and I set about restoring it. And this thing turned up, and it had been stored in a garden for probably 2 or 3 decades, and it was in a heck of a state. The petrol tank was completely rusted through, there was holes in it, most of the engine was missing, it was very rusty. The wheels, which I believe are mag alloy, were just green with corrosion, not with paint, with corrosion, and it was just in a bit of a state really. So I took pity on it and cracked on. And about 3 years later, it took me quite a while to do, say about 3 years, because we were moving around quite a lot then with my job, and every time we moved I had to take it to pieces, pack it in boxes and move it, and then you know, get a bit of a workshop set up in the new place and start from scratch. But eventually, when my first son was about 3 years old, we got it finished, and we used to have a lot of fun. I would sit on it and ride it and stick him on the tank, hold on to him and blast up and down the garden, and he thought it was great fun. And then my other two sons came along, and all three of them have had a lot of fun out of it, ruining lawns and blasting up and down gardens wherever we've lived. So yeah, it's a great thing, and unfortunately for the past few years it's been languishing in a lockup, not really being used, and they're all quite big now. Obviously my first son's almost 17 now, so but he was sitting on it today, and he was reminiscing and still having a bit of fun with it. But as I say, it has been laid up, and it has got a couple of little issues that need to be sorted out. The biggest issue that we need to deal with is the fuel in the tank has basically stripped the sealant off. When I restored the tank, I had to fiberglass the whole thing to cover up all the holes, and then I used a sealant that was supposedly compatible with fiberglass, and it did work for a while, but there's more of it sort of dissolved into the petrol now than there is on the walls of the tank, so that's not great. So we need to take the tank off and clean that out and come up with a new sealant to go in there, and we need to clean the carburetor out, obviously, and then there's a few sort of little areas of corrosion that need sorting out, but we washed it today and it doesn't look too bad. So I think the first job is to take the fairing off and have a look at the carburetor and probably take the petrol tank off. So I think we'll get into that. Okay, so I'm going to take the fairing off, and at the moment it's just held on with these plastic number plate screws, so it doesn't really need any tools to remove it. It's remarkable really that this fairing survived, I think. When the bike came to me, the fairing was just sort of loosely hanging off the bike. There was no screws or anything in it, it was just sort of wrapped around it. Take the other one off at the other side. I may have to turn the bike around to do that. But yeah, it's remarkable really. It's just a piece of fiberglass, and you wouldn't have expected it to survive, but it did. The one thing that didn't survive is the windscreen, and there was a windscreen fitted, but it was in a really bad state. It was all scratched, there was paint and all sorts of stuff on it, but it served as a pattern, and probably the most expensive part of the rebuild was having the windscreen replicated, and I had that done in America. A fella called Leif Gustafsson. He's a guy that does, I think the road racing guys get their screens from him. I might just be able to reach that actually. And yeah, it took him about a year to do because he's a really busy guy. Just move this bike a little bit so I can get into them. Excuse me, obstructing your view. Yeah, he's a busy guy, and I sent him the screen over to America, and about a year later I got my new windscreen. It was very, very expensive. It was obviously a one-off job, but what I actually did was I got him to make four. He made 4 screens, and I sold 2 of them. And you think, well, who'd want to buy them? There can't be many of these bikes around, but I've sort of done a bit of research. I found that there's about half a dozen of these bikes in the UK left. Oh, there we go. And yeah, so I managed to sell 2 of the screens. Let me see if you can see that very well. Did a lovely job of it. But selling the screens helped me to pay for the 2 that I kept. There we go. And inside it's just a fiberglass moulding. So, you know, quite vulnerable here. You'd think it would have broken there over the years, but thankfully it survived. So that's the windscreen and the fairing removed. And now we'll have a bit more of a look at the bike. I'm just going to move the camera so you get a better view of the engine. There we go. So it's a Marini Franco S5. Very popular engine back in the 1970s for kids' bikes and mopeds. 47cc, little Del Auto SHA carburetor, and I need to declare my love here for Del Auto carburetors. I think they're fantastic. They've got me out of trouble so many times. Whenever I've had a bike with a bit of a running problem or a carburetor problem, stick a Del Auto on it and it generally sorts it out. I did that with the East German Simpson bike that I rebuilt. Couldn't get it to run right on the original carburetor. Put a Del Auto on it and yeah, it was good as gold. So yeah, there we go. Little flywheel mag in here, very similar to the Bantam flywheel mag with contact breaker points and simple ignition system. We've got a kill switch on it. Let me just show you that. Little lanyard type kill switch, so you know you can attach that to the kids, and if they have a spill, the little rubber thing pops off and the engine stops. So that's basically it. We'll whip the carburetor off and see what we can see. So I'll just get the tools together and we'll do that. Okay, I've got some tools together. I've got you zoomed in on the carburetor. Clamp the fuel hose off. There's bound to be a little bit of petrol spillage, but we can minimise that. The tap is in the off position. I don't think you can see that on there. Let me just move it up a little bit. Tap is in the off position, but we don't know whether the tap's good, whether it's holding fuel or not. So I've clamped off the hose. If we're going to lose any petrol, it'll be just this little bit here, and maybe what spills out of the fuel banjo. Got some blue rag, workshop wipe stuff ready for the inevitable spillage, and I'm gloved up because I don't want to be smelling like petrol for the rest of the day. So first things first, I'll whip the air intake or air filter body off, and then we'll see if we can get this fuel line off. So just a single screw holding this on. Off it comes. It's just a little plastic intake, and moment of truth, we'll see if this fuel union wants to come off the banjo. The plastic pipe is rock hard, so it's obviously hardened up over time. But let's just see if it moves. If not, I'll just cut it just above the fuel banjo. Oh, I think it is moving. Possibly, possibly not. There's not a lot of flexibility in it, that's the problem. Oh, it is coming. Alright, let's get the rag ready. Catch the inevitable spill. There we go. There we go. And then I think we can just get whatever's in the pipe. Just let it soak into the rag. It appears that the tap is working because there's nothing coming out of there now. So, well, that smells horrible. That smells horrible, and it was bright red, so it's it has dissolved the lining of the tank. and the bright red colour is the actual sealant that I used. I'll just bend that out of the way a little bit so you can see, and disconnect the carburetor from the inlet stub. There's bound to be a little bit of fuel in the float ball, I would think. That's hopefully not too much. Yeah, there is quite a bit actually. So what we'll do is we'll just remove the throttle slide and take the carb off and empty it out. So 2 screws on the top of the carburetor, and we should be able to get the throttle slide out. They're a flat slide carb, these. Very, very simple. Single jet. The idle circuit picks up through the main jet, through a drilling. Simple but effective. I'm guessing that you're seeing not an awful lot at the moment, just a lot of my hands, but hopefully in a minute we'll be able to focus on the carburetor a little bit more. I'll just disconnect the cable. The spring out of the way. There we go. That's the slide and the top of the carburetor. Okay, so that's it disconnected from the bike. I think what we'll do now, engine needs a good clean. I think we'll get the bike off the bench, out of the way, and focus on the carburetor for a bit. Okay, right, so we'll I've drained the carburetor into my little red draining tub, which I keep for that purpose. It's a very handy little thing with a kind of a gauze insert in there, and we'll have a look at taking this thing to pieces. The petrol that came out of it was bright red. You can see on the body there traces of it. So that means it's dissolved. Oh, more of it coming out now. That means it's dissolved that tank liner. It's very syrupy, quite frankly. That could be partially a good thing, because if it's dissolved enough of it out of the tank, it might not be so tricky to get out, but we'll see when we come to clean the tank out. So I'm just going to whip the float ball off and we'll have a look inside. Hopefully you can see that. It's quite tricky to film. I need to get an overhead like what Dale Swager uses, an overhead camera when he's doing bench work, and it's very, very useful. I'm just laying out all the pieces on a piece of workshop, the blue workshop towel, just to keep it all nice and clean. Swept the bench down as best I could, because obviously when you're doing carburetors you don't want to be introducing debris. The whole purpose is to get any debris that's in there out, not introduce more. So that's the float bowl free. Little float bowl O-ring seal on it. You can see the redness in there. That isn't the two-stroke oil. I know sometimes two-stroke oil is red, but that is definitely the tank liner. And these bikes do run on premix, but yeah, that's not what that is, unfortunately. So then, let's get things into shot. You have the float with the main jet in the middle there. The main jet runs into, I don't know if this is going to show up. You can see down the orifice there, down the venturi, there's a spray bar. So the main jet feeds that spray bar, and then there's a separate circuit that comes off the main jet as well for the idle circuit. There's a little bleed hole there, look, so that ambient air pressure can get into the float bowl. And that is basically how it works. It's a pretty simple carburetor. We'll see if we can get the float out. Doesn't seem to want to. Let me just get something to push that pin out with. 1 second. Okay, so I've just got a little pair of long nose pliers just to coax the pin out. It just got a little bit corroded, I think. So that's the pin that holds the float. Oh, needle valve came out with it. There's the float. And there is the float needle valve. I'm trying to get that in focus. You see it's got a little black tip. I think it's probably like a Viton or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it's got some sort of a coating on the tip. So now we have the inside of the carburetor. Very, very simple. We'll whip the main jet out, and I think that'll pretty much do us for stripping down the carb. I'm not expecting it to be full of debris or anything like that, but it's probably just stale fuel, residue from the tank liner, a kind of a varnishy sort of effect I think going on in there. So I'll take the main jet out, and then the whole thing can soak. That's that. There's your main jet. Carburetor body. That's the choke assembly in there. When the throttle slide is fitted and the top cap, you see that little lever there, that protrudes into the back of the carburetor here, and when you put the choke across, it latches on that little lever, and then to take the choke off, you just open the throttle fully wide and it pulls that lever out of the way and the choke snaps back. It's really, really simple but effective system. And as I say, these carburetors are used on sort of a lot of Italian mopeds and scooters and things like that. I don't know if you can see that. Possibly not. There you go. SHA 1412 Del Auto. So there we go, that's our carburetor. I'll get that cleaned up, and then there's all the pieces laid out. Get that cleaned up. Oh, there you go, that's better. And then we'll get it back together, and that'll be in the next video. Now my intentions are to get this bike running pretty quickly. We've not had any two-stroke smoke around here for a while, and I think it's about time we had some. So we'll get the thing running, and then I'll get a couple of my test pilots out to put their helmets on and ruin my lawn with it and have some fun, and we'll film that as well. So something to look forward to. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed, old and new. We're over 150 now, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much indeed for that. And if you found the channel and you haven't subscribed, please do. It makes a huge difference. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much. Bye for now.